Michelle with two L's, and I am one half of Forcefy Entertainment. I'm here to give you my reactionary thoughts, my review of Leslie Headland's The Acolyte, episode 7, titled The Choice. Before we get started, if you have not yet subscribed to Forcefy Entertainment, what are you waiting for? Go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Also, give this video a thumbs up. Well, guys, we are now on the 7th episode. We have come a long way in watching, not very good show. So what are my kind of just initial thoughts on episode 7? That was horribly boring. There's really no other way to say it. I paused it at one point to see how much time was left. This episode, I will say, was longer than the others. But now that I got longer, I don't want longer, because if you don't have a story to tell, which The Acolyte does not really have a story to tell, it is almost just a lot of filler and a lot of things happening. Nothing ever happens. So it doesn't really have a story. If that's the case, I would rather just have the 30-minute episode. Because when I saw that I had like 15 minutes left, I was like, dang, why did I run my mouth about short episodes? They can be good when you're watching The Acolyte, that's for sure. So this one was longer, but last week I said how pretty much guaranteed this episode would be another flashback. We would go back and see from a different point of view what happened the night of the power of one, the power of two, the power of many. And that is exactly what we get in this episode. It is a total retelling of everything we've seen in episode 3. Literally at point Soul, the only one any of us really care about, he's literally just watching what we've already watched at different points in this episode. You do get some new stuff with the Jedi, but it's mostly dreadfully boring, and who really cares? I will say, though, as much as the show wants the Jedi to be the villains, I walked away from this episode saying the Jedi are freaking heroes. That's my opinion. That's my take. So we do find, I will say this, that the Jedi weren't just creeping around, by the way, trying to steal kids. They were on this planet because they thought it was basically just a desolate place, not inhabited by anything. And they discover that there's all this wildlife and all this, greenery and all this growth life. It's where they then stumble upon these girls and see they're force sensitive. So that's how this all gets going. So then again, you get literally, if you've seen the 3rd episode, you've seen most of this episode. You're just getting, again, from the Jedi's point of view, the Jedi's perspective of what happens. And honestly, after watching this episode, I'm still a little confused on what happened in some of this. The Saul has a kind of an immediate attachment to Osha, and may or may not, I don't know, kind of, be aiding her along a little bit to try to make sure she gets approved to be a Jedi. You kind of got that going on. But in fairness to Saul, Saul does witness this witch coven thing, and he's like, let's get these kids the heck out of here. So again, the Jedi, in my opinion, are the heroes from my point of view and from the right point of view of this show. But basically, again, this is an episode where stuff is happening, but a lot doesn't really happen. There's not a lot you connect with. There's not a lot I can really report back. You're just seeing everything replayed. And you see how the mother witch, she gets kind of gets in the Jedi's head a little bit, using her witch powers, I guess. And basically, when they go to get the girls to see their decision, we should say that they weren't going to take them against their will, because again, they are the good guys, actually. So they were going to see what the decision the two of them had made. And that's when all heck breaks loose. And we already know somehow a fire starts in a stone building. We see all that again from a different angle, basically. So basically, what happened? What did Soul do that was so bad? Did he start the fire? No, May definitely started the fire. And May is clearly, again, even going back to when she was little, just not a very good person. Not on a good path. She's already got the witch thing on her face. She's just a little disaster, quite frankly. But Soul, basically the one mother like does some witch magic stuff and becomes vapor, and then somehow like Soul stabs her. And I was a little confused on if I think he meant to. I don't know. I don't really know why he stabbed her. He might have just been scared because again, she was doing really weird witch stuff. That's enough to make anyone scared, quite frankly. I mean, for what he saw in the show. And then somehow the witches all come together and they use their powers to get in the head of the Wookiee Jedi. And the Wookiee Jedi just goes berserk and tries to kill the Padawan. And even Soul tries to get in and try to save him. And then Trinity, Carrie-Anne Moss's character's got to finally step in, and she's able to get whatever the witches have done to his head calmed. And then that's whenever she does that, the witches just die. It really didn't make any sense. So I can't really explain how the witches died. Again, Carrie-Anne Moss's character, Trinity, we'll just call her Trinity. She just calms the Wookiee's head and kind of gets the witches out of his head, and the witches die. That was literally it. So the only person that they can really accuse Soul of killing here would be the mother. And again, she was doing some real witchy stuff that I think kind of freaked the man out. But the rest of it, they kind of brought on themselves to a degree. And I know they would say, oh, well, the Jedi instigated it. And it was kind of an unmitigated disaster, I will say that. But everyone was kind of involved in the unmitigated disaster. And ultimately, I'd say the witches were the most involved in this being a disaster. Because they were doing all their little witch stuff. And ultimately, it cost them all their lives. So that's how they die. We also finally we see that Soul literally has the power to choose who's he going to save. He's using the Force. And does he save May, the little devil child, or does he save Osha, who seems to be a decent person? He chooses Osha. And again, it was a tough situation to be put in, to have to choose. But if I'm choosing one, I would say Soul made the right decision. Because again, May's like a little devil girl. So I think Osha, was the one to choose. So that's what happens. He saves, as we see, if we already knew, he saves Osha and lets May fall. Of course, we know, spoiler alert, May's alive. We all know that. I will say, just kind of getting a line that kind of was like, ooh, okay. And this line, if it was delivered by if this was written by anyone other than Kathleen Kennedy's story group and Leslie Headland, and even if it was just not in the show, I wouldn't think anything of it. But as we saw in episode 3, the one witch gets into the Padawan's mind, and we see that play out in this episode. And she asked him this: do you have natural desires you suppress? Gee, Leslie Headland, feels kind of right on the nose there. Again, it's a line I wouldn't really have thought of like much into if it wasn't in this horrible show that it feels like everything has kind of either a sexual or some kind of weird, I don't know. It got my attention because of who wrote it and what show it is in. But anyways, ending this tear, and I will say this episode was so boring. And I'm really not being dramatic when I say that. I think most of you who watch this, any of you who actually watch this, most of you just watch the reviews, and I understand why. But for those of you who actually watch this, I mean, it's a pretty boring show. Like there's not a lot that pulls you in ever. It really, this has been a chore that I've done for the show. And thank God there's only one left. But yeah, it was just another horribly boring episode, which in reality doesn't carry the plot along that much because it's just a fully devoted flashback again, where you have to deal with the child actors that, I would say are hit or miss, but mostly are miss is what I would say in this situation, which can also be, nothing against them, can be some bad directing as well. I don't know. But yeah, not much happens really. Not that much that furthers the plot along. Not much that really makes me feel anything towards these characters that I don't care anything about 7 episodes in. So it just feels again like I said, that you didn't have enough story to tell and to tell 8 episodes worth. And if you don't have a really solid 8 episodes, why are you making this television? It what's the point? That's just really pathetic. I mean, back in the day, they would write 22 to 24 episodes of things that were vastly had more meat on the bones than the episodes we got, like this one tonight. And so basically, how does this episode end? It ends with the Jedi deciding that they'll basically just tell a half truth when they go before the council. They won't fully divulge all that has gone on. Oh, also, there's something about they say before we get to the cover up, the Jedi figure out that somehow that the virgins made these girls, so it's still kind of unsure how they were created, and that basically they say that it's like one consciousness split into 2 people. I don't know, guys. Again, I was more confused by the end of this episode than I felt things were resolved and that I understand them better. So anyone who's watched this and you feel you can explain that better, feel free to leave a comment below on that. So that's kind of how they explain that. But yeah, so the Jedi covered up. They just say May started the fire. They don't tell anything else that happened, which again, honestly, isn't really their fault, because the witches got in the Jedi's minds and caused havoc as a result. So again, I feel the Jedi are the hero in this situation. They got the one good girl out. The witches, basically kind of did themselves in by doing all their witchiness and trying to mess with the Jedi. So I don't really feel bad for any of them. I'm just gonna be real truthful on that one, real transparent with you on that. Don't feel bad for the witches. I really don't. But yeah, that's kind of this episode of The Acolyte, episode 7, The Choice. We have one final episode, and again, we all know how this is going to go. They're going to act. Let me just tell you how this is probably going to go. Osha's going to seem like she might be bad. May will maybe come around to the Jedi a little bit. I don't know. We'll see how that goes. But we all know the power of 2 is going to come together to defeat Smilo Ren. That's how this show is going to end. I doubt there's a single good mystery that they said a mystery show is going to give us, but we'll see. I've hung in this many episodes. I'm going to finish this thing, dang it. And then I'm not going to think about the Acolyte ever again. I'm going to scrap it from my memory because I need the Men in Black to come and just wipe it free of the Acolyte, because it's been a chore. It's been boring. It's been really boring. But what are you guys' thoughts on The Acolyte episode 7? Did you watch it? Are you just watching the review? Share your thoughts below. And if you have not yet, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Also give this video a thumbs up. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, remember to be a force to fly. All right. Bye, guys.